started if you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead.
So originally, when I requested to talk to you, I thought we were going to be talking about a possible boycott, and then what happened today with the Bucks, and it's expanded out to all of the games today, and now it's going out to other leagues. So I'm just curious, first of all, what your reaction is to what's transpired today.
The reaction is just full support. I think as all coaches in the league, our primary responsibility right now is to show and demonstrate our support for our players and their concerns. Um, and that's, I think, what comes out of this, I don't know, but we are 100% supportive of what our players are committed to doing today.
What do you hope that people get from this? And I mean, it's such a delicate situation all around. And what do you hope that the players accomplish by doing this, by deciding we're not fit to play today because of what's going on?
Well, I think everyone needs to understand that players have human emotions and feelings as well. They're in Orlando, they're playing basketball, they're separated from their families, and they're seeing social unrest in our country on a daily basis, and feeling as powerless and limited in what they can do in this moment, and that's disturbing. And so I think everyone needs to understand that. We want our players to play; they want to play. But to understand there's a lot of things that are going on that are beyond our control. I'm outside the bubble, and I'm still trying to figure out what I can contribute to, how I can help, what I can do to create more awareness, engage people, to connect with people. And so the fight is just ongoing. It's slow. It's a process. It's new for a lot of us. And so our focus and our commitment need not be underserved or underappreciated. But we also are tired of talking and just having conversations, spreading the awareness. We're trying to, and I know the players are extremely committed to trying to advance to some areas of action. And that's what I think the conversation will move towards now is what can we do? What can we do right now? And how do we engage our entire league in doing so?
Obviously, a boycott, you get people's attention with it. That's kind of the goal. But do you see the benefit of this also being a way for athletes to use their voice, or is it that balance of sports is supposed to be an escape, but also athletes and coaches are supposed to use their platform? So where does that kind of fall in that balance right now?
Well, I mean, for us, we understand, again, I don't think anyone's speaking as an athlete right now. I think everyone's speaking as a father, as a brother, as a son, as a husband. I know that's what I'm speaking as. And so my concern is what am I doing to participate in safety for my daughter and my wife? And the players in Orlando are separated from their families right now. And so they're trying to figure that out without being in proximity or close contact of what they can do. And that's important to note. That's important to understand, as everyone is protesting and doing it in solidarity. That's why it has to be brought up. That's why it is being brought up right now.
What are your thoughts on how the NBA responded today, quickly postponing just the rest of the games? And I know Woj has talked to people, and it's there's the season may be in jeopardy, and then the Bucks have said they still want to play. But how do you think that the NBA has responded, at least from today?
Well, when you engage in this area of concern, when you speak about racial justice and you speak about equality, it isn't something that goes away. And the resuming of basketball in Orlando was focused and committed to those areas, to racial justice, to sharing our support and encouraging the awareness for our players to use their platform to talk about Black Lives Mattering in our country and to talk about equality. And so when you make that commitment, it isn't a halfway commitment. I encourage and I applaud our players and I applaud our league for acting swiftly in support of our players in today's action. because that was just the starting point. But things have gotten worse and things have become more of alarming. And today was just a reaction to that. And so it is. You make a commitment to say, we want to fight for racial justice. You got to be all the way in.
I was going to ask you what you thought about momentum in this movement, because it's hard to see right now if there's momentum, and like you said, it feels like things have gotten worse. But also, there's the players actively. It seems like every chance they get, making sure they bring it up. There's the messaging on the courts and the jerseys. Do you feel like that's done anything, or is it not enough? Like I know some of the players today said.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to quantify, the momentum of speaking about racial injustice and inequities that are going on. You don't want to say I've done it for 10 weeks and I brought 1,000 other people in. You want to engage as many as you can, and you want to do it as often as you can. This power struggle, this inability to coexist, in this country, in our league, and what we're fighting for, but to understand, what we see in politics, what we're seeing in law enforcement and communities is an inability to coexist. And our responsibility and our commitment is to address it, because it isn't going away. And it's a major area of concern, but it isn't to quantify it. It isn't to say we've done enough. And I think that would be understating or undervaluing how important it is and how deeply rooted these areas and issues are. So I'm not here to say we've done enough. And I'm not here to say that what we do tonight is going to be the end all be all. It's just another advancement in this conversation. And we're tired of actually talking about it. We're tired of making the statements. And that's where we are. We want to see action now, and we want to be a part of the action, and then we want to be a part of the next phase, because this isn't going to be it either.
Is a boycott ever something that even before this today that ever crossed your mind as something that could happen in the
Yeah,
league?
I mean, Orlando wasn't a shoo-in, and before the players committed to going back to Orlando, this was the hot topic. And I think when basketball resumed, people realized, okay, I've said a lot, and I've worn a lot of shirts. We've made statements. That's not enough. And there's a boycott, and there's a protest, and there's a strike, and whatever you want to call it, what's happening today, that won't be enough either. So I'm trying to figure out what is next, and what can we do to advance this phase as well. I'm sure the players are saying the exact same thing as they're talking and discussing these options and plans of action as well.
Have you been able to talk to anybody in the bubble, coaches, players?
I speak to coaches on a regular basis, and some players on a regular basis. Today has happened extremely quickly. Everything has happened really fast, and you're seeing everything on social media and the conversations and the phones ringing. I don't want to share any of that. There's some deep conversations about what we can do now. But it's really about standing strong together. And as coaches, we're going to stand strong with our players.
Do you think games will resume tomorrow?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know when. I don't know. That's for those guys that are there. I hope so, because I also know the strength of those guys being together and having these meetings and discussing these plans of actions of what they can do to engage the owners, engage the league, to engage each other. That happens because they're still playing and they're in Orlando. We're all going to do individual things if we're not there, and I want to encourage those guys to have resolve, to come together, have a plan, and be able to support each other while they're there.
Just a couple more for you. Just to kind of build off that, you want it's a hard thing because you want to play, but also you want to make sure your point gets across. So do you see this, if things don't change, do you see this becoming even bigger, the next step? I don't even know what the next step after a boycott would be, just not playing a season, or teams, pulling out of certain cities. Do you see it escalating like that if things don't change?
Everything in our country has escalated. We went from dealing with a pandemic to dealing with, you know, police relationships in our community, seeing George Floyd, seeing Amy Cooper and Christian Cooper in the park, and what that looks like to African American men. We're seeing Ahmaud Arbery, Rashard Brooks. We're seeing Jacob Blake. We're seeing Breonna Taylor. Everything in our country has escalated. Whatever comes out of today, we still have to be, we're preparing for what may come tomorrow. And we're trying to prepare for that in a way to acknowledge that this isn't about this one event. This isn't about our one stance. This is about how do we change the policies, the procedures, the ideologies in the country that are keeping us from being able to coexist with one another, to have this power struggle. That's for tomorrow. That's what the meeting is. It's for tomorrow, and it's for the next situation. There will be a next situation, unfortunately. We want to address it better. We want to address it stronger, and that happens by being together.
One of the things that struck me when I listened to Nick Nurse's interview, I think it was from yesterday, was he kind of said priorities are shifting, and they're shifting away from basketball. Do you think that, you know, we've seen someone like Renee Montgomery not play this season. Do you think in time we will see guys not play anymore and dedicate their time to change?
You know, I hope that's not the only way we can create change, is for people to be unemployed, and to people to dedicate their lives to. I believe in the power of our connections. I believe in the power of our relationships and our influence. You know, all the people that you think of are great athletes, are great entertainers that are committed to social and racial justice. They do it from a very elevated platform, and they do it because of the reach that they have. You know, I think that's the responsibility and the duty that comes with the positions that we hold. And I think it's really more about, let's get more and people engaged that have these opportunities and they're in these positions. You know, let's not separate or remove ourselves. Let's encourage the people that we're connected to, our owners, our league, our influencers, our local leaders that we can get in contact with. Let's engage with them and bond and try and create a network that allows us to do more. Let's not isolate and try and do it on our own, because that's not going to happen.
And that would mean playing. So you don't think this will be a long-term thing?
I don't know. I will support whatever comes of this. I think that's the most important part of it. I do know being together is our strongest voice, and together as players, together as coaches, together as owners, together as a league is the strongest voice that we have in our league.
What I think it's very telling, you know, when the NBA, when something happens in the NBA, it goes beyond basketball, it goes beyond sports. And to see, I don't know if you know, Atlanta United just decided they're not playing, and other baseball teams and other leagues have, you know, kind of
that's the point. If we need to be the model, and that's what creates the change from other organizations and other corporations and other groups, then let's be it. Let's do it. And so if we've shown that because we canceled games today, we've encouraged other organizations to do the same thing, well, what else can we do? That's the point. So let's figure out what we can do now that will encourage others to take part in that. And so that bond becomes even stronger and greater. And so the next step that we're going to have to get to, it isn't 5 people, it isn't 100. We've got thousands in this fight at the same time, and thousands with a lot of influence.
And do you think that, like, what do you think that next step might be? Is that something that's ever been talked about within?
I mean, when you fight for racial justice and social justice and equality, you know, I'm not here to say what I think the next step is. There's so many areas that need to be addressed. You and that's part of our education. None of us are experts in this. We're emotional, and we're empathetic, and we're also feeling it. We're feeling the effects of racial injustice in our communities and in our families. But it isn't a next step. It's a multitude of steps that we have to take, and that we have to take towards, and we have to work towards, to create lasting change, not just for tomorrow.
Awesome. Anything else that I didn't bring up that you wanted to touch on?
Nope.
Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time, Coach.